I don't know about you, but I thought this particular lady was a dynamite of talent. She could literally do it all. Of course, it really helped, didn't it? The fact that she was in so many iconic films, including the brilliant South Pacific. So sadly, we have to say goodbye to the wonderful, the supremely talented and beautiful Miss Mitzi Gaynor. And yes, I was lucky enough to meet Mitzi, all thanks, of course, to some wonderful Hollywood connections. And when you think about it, you know, for me, my memories were over here in the United Kingdom. We used to get a lot of her shows broadcast, you know, the big spectacular, you know, Mitzi and 100 Men, all that sort of stuff. And when you think about now, particularly as I work in television, the colossal amount of money that must have taken to make those shows. Mitzi, of course, looked resplendent, as I later found out, in Bob Mackie gowns, and no expense was spared, wonderful orchestras, you know, all of that sort of stuff. It's the sort of entertainment we won't see again. Many years later, of course, I was lucky enough to bump into Mitzi, all thanks to a chum of mine, Mickey Rooney. And what was fascinating about Mitzi, she'd lost none of her zest for life. I found that with a lot of the old Hollywood stars, you know, whether they, I don't know how you put this, whether they could just turn it on, but Ann Miller was the same. You know, they had this zest that you go, wow, you know, they had it and they knew exactly how to sell it. Liza Minnelli, you would say, is the same today, recently popping up on the front cover of a magazine called Interview, looking terrific, but having her problems, but seemingly still being able to switch on that showbiz bulb as and when was required. Mitzi Gaynor told me a very funny story though, and I wanted to share this with you because this to me is what we should remember people by, how much fun they were. Many people will remember that on that historic night also, on the Ed Sullivan Show when the Beatles debuted to America, actually it was Mitzi Gaynor who was the headline act. Yes, you know, at the time they hadn't realised, you know, Ed Sullivan and all this sort of stuff. They realised the Beatles were popular over here. Nobody had any idea just how popular they might be around the world, you know, so this was all new territory, and Mitzi was billed as that. She did say to me that, you know, she couldn't quite believe these four good-looking guys were all over her because they'd seen her at their cinemas. And she said it slightly made me feel a bit old, and you realise exactly just how time is moving on. But the story that she shared with me, which I thought was terrific, was behind the scenes story about appearing in the wonderful movie There's No Business Like Show Business with the legendary Ethel Merman, Marilyn Monroe, Donald O'Connor, Mitzi, and so many more wonderful cast members. It is a terrific movie, even if you watch it today. Pure escapism, you know, 20th century Fox CinemaScope, delightful colour, everything that you want from one of those matinee movies. But apparently Ethel Merman was less than keen on the fact that Marilyn Monroe was cast in the show, simply because, you know, she, well, didn't necessarily reckon her as something of a talent. Now, obviously, as sort of Fox's reigning sex bomb, you know, Mitzi knew exactly why Marilyn Monroe had been put in the movie. But she kept missing rehearsals and she didn't turn up for certain things. But as Mitzi pointed out to me, when she did her numbers like Heat Wave and everything else, everything was spot on. She knew everything. There wasn't a problem. But when it came to the very final big, you know, sort of finale number, she'd been missing for all the rehearsals. And apparently this was a bit of a tricky number where they had to march in time and then march down the stairs to the front, all of them linked up. It's a very famous scene. And according to Mitzi, she said, you know, she didn't arrive and, you know, Ethel said, oh, we'll be here for hours, she won't know it, etc. She said the music struck up, the playback started, and Marilyn was in time, never missed a beat, never literally put a foot out of step. It was a one-take wonder. And she said, I looked towards Ethel. Ethel looked back to me and said, and walked off. And at that point, Mitzi said she had supreme respect for Marilyn Monroe, simply because she said she was one of a kind, a genius. And many people might say the same thing about Mitzi Gaynor. Big star in Las Vegas, big star on the big screen, and of course, colossal success in television specials. They don't make them like those old Hollywood stars of yesteryear, and it's good that they've left, well, such a fabulous body of work for us all to enjoy for many years to come. Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time out to share some of your life with me, Miss Mitzi Gaynor. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.